Spoilers will be in this video from the off, so remember you've been warned. Succession just keeps on delivering, doesn't it? When you think you've had a moment that topped the last one that occurred in the previous episode, another one comes along and steals the show. In this week's episode, we saw the climax of it being focused on the argument between Tom and Shiv erupting on the balcony of his apartment. An argument that was essentially 4 seasons in the making, and a moment that I feel is going to change the trajectory of Tom for the remainder of the final season. This was an important episode for Tom, and I feel we're definitely going to feel the weight of it. So with that, I thought I'd break down and explain how this episode articulated the decline of Tom, bringing him from on top of the world to the bottom of it in the space of a singular episode. So let's get into it. Here is how Succession Season 4 Episode 7 broke Tom. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. This episode started and finished with Tom, which is something that I feel was extremely important to the structuring of the runtime. As well as opening and closing, we also had small moments throughout it for a couple of minutes each time, which gave us brief glimpses into how the evening was going for Tom, and the gradual decline that his mindset was taking. His mood and emotions can easily be broken down into 3 separate parts throughout the episode, one which occurred in the opening, another which occurred throughout the main part of the episode, and then one which occurred right at the end. Let's start with the first section, a section I'm going to call Optimism Can Be a Wonderful Thing. Optimism can be a wonderful thing, right? And that's exactly what Tom was feeling right at the start of the episode when he was having breakfast with Shiv. It was election eve and a time where Tom knew that the next 24 hours were going to be extremely busy for him, hence where his tiredness and pre-tiredness was coming from. However, he was able to look through the tiredness at this point. He was happy that he was back with Shiv and that things were seeming to be how they were prior to what we saw occurring when they were filing for divorce. But this was just the calm before the storm. There were 2 things that Tom was hopeful for in this section. We saw that he was hopeful for his marriage with Shiv to work and that it could potentially be back on track, something which we saw being brought up at breakfast. He mentioned how he was glad that they were hosting the party together and that he wanted to tell people that they took a break but now they were back together, something which Shiv did agree to do. With the giving of a present and there being humour involved, he was smiling and there was giddy behaviour. We even saw this type of early doors romance being exhibited in the text messages that they were sending each other, like it was fresh and brand new. So at this point there wasn't an ounce of you that would think that it would erupt into a large argument. The second part of optimism that we saw occur and the moment where the mood of Tom changed for the rest of the episode was when he was setting up for the party and he found out that Mattson was going to be in attendance. Tom has had a fear in his mind of being axed by Mattson from the moment that the deal was announced. So with him being in attendance, he was hopeful of the fact that he'd be able to get into Mattson's good books. The only 2 times where Tom showed an ounce of happiness and optimism. The moment that leads me into the second section occurs in the same breath as a moment where Tom was made to feel optimistic. He found out that Nate would be in attendance at the party too, somebody who Tom disliked for quite an obvious reason. And this section is going to be called Standing Alone in a Crowded Room. I feel this best sums up how Tom was feeling all throughout the episode whilst he was at the party. There were multiple occasions where he was on his own despite having 40 people in his own home, and all of this was happening whilst he was being on the receiving end of passive-aggressive humiliation. Humiliation that he couldn't even stand up to or question back, because the 40 people that were in his apartment were some of the most powerful people in the USA. However, he almost didn't need to, because everybody else was ruining his name for him. For example, we saw that Shiv didn't correct Mattson when it came to their divorce like she agreed to do, leaving him out there on his own. And there were multiple rumours going around the apartment that Tom was to be facing the chopping block the moment that Mattson acquired the company. So he was quite literally on his own, and even Shiv wasn't standing by him despite having said that she would, and showing that she actually cared for him behind closed doors. Tom was the Greg in the relationship, and you could tell that he didn't like how it felt, especially considering that even Greg was getting on with Mattson and chose to pick a different side to Tom in sticking with Kenro. So by this point, he'd been lied to by Shiv, had to converse with a man that had an affair with his wife, was humiliated by Mattson, and everybody in the apartment knew about it, and he was tired. So all of those things were weighing heavy on his mind in his own home, and there was quite literally no escape. The only escape was the bed that he so desperately wanted to go to, but he wasn't even able to do that due to being stopped by Shiv. This then brings us to the turning point in the character and the third and final section of this video, Tom's turning point. This was the argument that was 4 seasons in the making. We saw that Shiv was feeling fearful over the fact that she'd been going behind her brothers' backs, mainly because it seemed as though she didn't have the security with Mattson. That was at the top of her mind, despite the fact that Tom had been made out to be some kind of joke all evening, and it was clearly bothering him. 40 of the most important people knew that he was some kind of joke, and it could well ruin his career in the long run, but Shiv didn't show an ounce of care towards that. She facilitated it and made it happen. This was why we saw the argument reach the heights that it did, because Tom realized that Shiv would always be okay and find a way out no matter what situation she was in, and that she'd never care enough to be able to help him in his moment of need, especially if it collided with something that she was doing, which then meant that we saw the lid be opened onto more personal matters which involved the entirety of their relationship and the issues that they'd undergone throughout their time together. After clearing the air, the final time that we saw Tom was when he was lying in bed, a separate bed, and we saw a look on his face like we hadn't seen before. He truly knew that his relationship with Shiv was over, and more so that he didn't actually want to be with her anymore due to the pain and hurt that it caused him. Hence why I feel he's definitely cooking something up inside of his mind, something which could end Shiv. I feel he believes that if he's going to be going down and being humiliated in the process, I think he'll look to do all that he can to bring her down with him. This episode really did show us the slow and gradual decline of a character in one episode, and how you can start the episode with them wanting to do their all for somebody with a strong romantic gesture in making breakfast, getting them a present and hosting a party together, to then wanting to bring the world down around them. It's a rather Shakespearean way to look at a relationship between two people and the crumbling of it, but boy was it a special episode. And embedded within that was one of the greatest moments in the show. The argument that we all knew that we needed to see. Tom is going to be a different character from this next episode, and it's one that I'm really looking forward to seeing. He has his stressful day on the horizon with it being the election day, but I feel that's not going to be the only thing that makes his day stressful. I can't wait to see what's going to happen and how he's going to change moving forward. So, there you have it, how Succession Season 4 Episode 7 broke Tom. If you want to see more videos such as endings explained, theories and predictions and character breakdowns, then click on the I button. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @brainpilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. Where do you see Tom finishing off? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.